What's up, guys? This is James Hafer here, hanging out with Disc Golf Nerd. Just wanted to share my story, which is I am a very good amateur player, but I've decided that this year I want to go play with the best. So I bought an RV, I'm going to hit the pro tour, hang out with the best of them out there, and so in an attempt to pretend like I'm a pro, we're going to do it in the bag. So I thought I'd share what I'm going to be on tour with, what I'm throwing. So, into the bag we go. First up, gotta be my go-to disc. I tend to be a little bit of a slower, I'm a smaller guy, so I have a little less arm speed. I like to be more of a hyzer flip player, so I tend to throw things that are a little bit more in the understable category. So my go-to driver is Latitude Havoc. It's a 175 gram, flies for me perfectly, little hyzer release, stands up, gets me exactly where I need to go, but also feels like it gets the most distance out of this disc. Next on the list, trying to rep all the brands here, we got Dynamic Disc Sheriff. This one too, slightly understable for me. It's in their fusion plastic, so very controllable, gets me long distance, but also feels perfect for the way I throw a disc. Moving into Innova, like everybody, you got a Rocket Destroyer. This is a Star Destroyer, I've had it for a long time, so it started out pretty beefy, but it's getting to the point where it's getting just flippy enough where it has a really reliable fade at the end, but I can get it to stand up and get some max distance out of it. Also in that category, we're still sticking with the Destroyers, but when I need something that I know cannot go right, it's going to go hyzer the entire time. I have a Brinster Destroyer here. This thing is as reliable as it gets. I know exactly where it's going to go, and it's very dependable. When I'm feeling like the Havoc's flipping just a little bit too much, I actually carry a Shrike as well. A Star Shrike, also sort of close to max weight, 175. This guy, for some reason, feels like it should be flippy, but doesn't flip as much for me. So it's in the glow plastic as well, so maybe that has something to do with it. But headwinds, I tend to get this guy out, a little more stability, and can get it up there. This actually happens to be the first disc I ever bought. It's a Pro Wraith. It's been in my bag since the beginning, which is spanning about 8 years at this point. Pre-flight number, really old school, probably my favorite disc, but at this point it's become complete roller, or it has to be the most massive hyzer flip you've ever seen. So put it on a massive hyzer, and it will still anhyzer get fading off to the right. So a couple other drivers that I have here. These are sort of my specialty drivers. These come out when I need to throw a specific shot. So first one would be, this is a super light. We go back and forth. We can't decide if this is a Lucid Air or not, but it is a Trespass. It's 159 grams. This is my, I'm throwing uphill. I need to get something in the air with a lot more ease than any of these closer to max weight discs. So this is my, I'm throwing uphill, need a light disc. My most understable disc that I have in the bag is a G-Star Mystere. I thought it was going to be my roller disc. It turns out it just flies really well, has great glide. So I use this as my big anhyzer shot, get it up in the air, let it glide, and let it ride all the way out. Next on the list is, you can barely see, this is also one of my very first discs, also a Wraith, but it just happens to be in the Champion plastic. This one is usually when I go for skip shots, so I'm trying to get some type of crazy skip off the ground. This one gets on edge really well. It still is super stable after all these years. So this one I'm trying to bend it around a corner. I'm using the Champion Wraith. And last but not least, in my sort of specialty category is a Champion Sidewinder. Need to put down a roller. I tend to be in the Roadrunner Sidewinder category. Sort of settled on a Champion Sidewinder. A roller is the weakest part of my game, but there always are holes where you need to have a roller in your bag, so this is what I go with. Alright, moving on to a few more drivers, but now switching sides. Now we're going to the forehand side. So I used to play baseball back in the day. Forehands feel very natural to me. If given a choice, I am throwing forehands. My go-to disc has always been a Boss from the forehand perspective. So this one is a Star Boss, 172 grams. I have a variety of Bosses in the garage, but the Star plastic tends to be where I live. This one stayed pretty beefy, hit a few trees, but it's still holding true. So Star Boss for my forehands. The other disc that I tend to throw, that one's beefy. If I need something a little less beefy, I'm throwing an Innova Colossus, Star Colossus, 175 grams. This one, while it should be more beefy, has actually gotten a little bit understable on me. So I can release this on a hyzer and actually get a full flex flight out of it, which is just a gorgeous flight on the forehand side. And then my two other forehand discs, because I like to think that I'm Nate Sexton, tend to be probably right from his bag. So I have an Excalibur 175 Champion Plastic. This one feels great. It gets me long glide, much like the Boss, so depending on how much speed I need out of it, I'm kind of alternating between the Boss and the Excalibur. And then if I need something that is stable, I know is going to fly true and get that nice finish that I need to the right, throw a Star Firebird. So a little less speed for me, but I know exactly where it's going to go. Moving down, now we're into the Fairway Drivers. So I tend to throw two most often, and they're sort of completely different, but I have a very light Star T-Bird, 161 grams. This one I can get to flip. I can manipulate this pretty much in any direction that I want. So I tend to be throwing the T-Bird 3 as much as I can. This is my go-to from a fairway driver perspective. If I need a little more distance, a little more stability, I'm rocking Champion Thunderbird. I think everyone has one in the bag somewhere, so like everybody else, I have a Champion Thunderbird as well. And then two that come out a little less frequently. I wouldn't call them specialty discs necessarily, but they serve a purpose. I'll start with this guy. This one actually is pretty new to the bag, which I tend to keep my bag very similar throughout the year, regardless of what course I play. But I picked this one actually up at the Innova factory store, and I was looking for something that was going to fly straight and true. So this one is, I'm hitting a small gap at a far distance. I don't want to flip anything up, I don't want anything to hyzer. This one is just going straight. So I throw this Star TL3, flies great, very straight. And then the other one is one of my very old school discs. This is the DX Cheetah. Like I said, you saw some old stuff, you're going to see a few more old things in the putter category, but this is sort of my stand-up hyzer flip disc. I can get this to manipulate in a variety of ways, so I keep this guy in the bag, and when I need to get something to stand up or to turn right, I'm throwing the Cheetah. And last in the bag here, we got a few mid-ranges. We're going to start with the Stingray, old school disc. This is the Anheuser. I used to throw this all the time, so that's why it still is in the bag. I do appreciate this for the glide that it has and the fact that I can get this to go right regardless of where I'm at. So very understable disc, does the job. But I'd say the two discs I'm throwing most often are sort of my straight discs. I have a Rock 3 here, team stamped Innova. This guy is my bread and butter from a mid-range perspective. So 9 times out of 10 I'm picking this out of the bag. I can put this on pretty much any angle, and I know what it's going to do. And last but not least, flies a little bit differently, but this one's not the Nova, it's an Atlas. So I carry an Atlas instead, slightly different disc, and has a good feel and is a good contrast between everything else that I have. And then I do have here sort of a special one I'm working into the bag, the Disc Golf Nerd stamped compass. When you got guys that support you, like Disc Golf Nerd, you got to rep them out in the course. I also was in the need for a more stable disc, so I'm putting the compass in the bag. We'll see how it does this year out on tour. Last but not least, we're into the putters. So approaching, I tend to throw a couple when I'm approaching, both orange discs here. I'd say the one that I'm using most often, anything inside of 300 feet, I'm using the Yeti Pro AVR. This thing is as straight as it can be. It has a nice little float to it. So this is my go-to approach disc in and around the basket. If I'm looking to hyzer something in, something to get around a corner, something that's very stable, I carry this is a KC Pro Gator, also a relatively new addition to the bag, but this guy feels great. Again, like some of the other stable stuff, you can put it on a hyzer, you know exactly how it's going to finish every single time. Last two putters here. Really, this one is the disc that I hold in my opposite hand when I'm putting. But this is also my forehand approach, happens to be a harp. Always loved the way Ricky approaches around the green, so you gotta pick up a harp and see if I can do the same. And then my putting discs. This is actually my putting disc, but this is what it is. Super old school, don't even make it anymore. These are Innova XDs. This one I've had, actually one of my very first discs as well, and you can see the stamp is completely gone off this one, so that's how much I use it. It's one of my favorite discs. Slightly understable, as you've probably noticed from the theme of my bag here. Everything is slightly understable. So slightly unstable putter, but feels great in the hand. I feel like I can approach it, has a nice float, so you can actually approach it from a little bit further away. and this is what I rock when I'm putting out there. And that's it. That's the entire bag. So hope you guys learned something. If you have questions, let me know. If you're interested in following along, I will be out on tour. I'll be the guy trying to make a name for himself. So thanks for watching. Catch you guys later.